So let me say hello and introduce Sarah Delaney-Tuinstra. Is that how you say your name?
Tuinstra, yep.
Tuinstra. And we're really fortunate to have her here today. And Sarah talks about what she knows, and that's a lot because not only is she an LPC counselor, a licensed practitioner counselor,
Perfection.
um, professional counselor. She is a 4-year survivor of LMS. So thank you very much, and I'll let Sarah take it away.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, good evening or good afternoon, wherever you are located. I'm coming to you from Michigan. I'm in near Grand Rapids area. And yeah, licensed professional counselor. I've been in the field over 20 years, and I'm currently in private practice and love my work. To give you a little bit of my cancer history, I was diagnosed in May of 2021 with uterine leiomyosarcoma, and had never heard of it, probably like a lot of you. So ended up having a full hysterectomy, which puts you right into menopause. Was not expecting that or planning that. And then I went local here in Grand Rapids before really knowing the depths of our type of cancer. And then within the 3 months, I had the 3-month scan, and it showed that it had metastasized to my lungs. So then at that point, my dear sweet husband did a lot of research and found out that the University of Michigan Rogol Cancer Center has a sarcoma clinic. So we go there, and as soon as I walked in there, I knew that's where I needed to be. I see Dr. Schutze. Most of the time I see his PA, and they're just a fantastic team. The office is phenomenal. So highly recommend if you live in Michigan. It's a great place to go. So what happened there is I got started on the chemo route, and did the Red Devil and a bunch of other chemos. I was talking to Sharon earlier. I'm like, I couldn't even go through all the chemos that I had. Some worked really well, some not so good. I did a trial at one time that didn't really pan out. So in where I'm at now, well, I can backtrack a little bit. I had a lobectomy, so they took out the cancer is in all parts of my lungs. So they took out the lobe where it had more nodules than not. And then I've done some radiation that my body responded well to that. And then I have been on Keytruda. It will be 2 years in July, and I know that it's been stable for me. I know that's not the case for a lot of people. Just yeah, that's where I'm at now. Feel really good. Go there every 3 weeks, and so we wanted to talk tonight. Encompassing mental health. I know that's a lot, and there's a lot. Everyone's situation and circumstances are different. So I'm going to try to highlight a few. It may fit with yours, it may not. I think people are in different places in their lives. They have different support. They have different access and availability. So I'm just going to kind of a general approach to this. I think the biggest thing I want to do is just to normalize the stress and the heart sinking response and reaction that you get when you get that call that you have cancer. I'm not going to tell you that that's not going to be anxiety producing. It is, and that is just one of those things in life that is just really, really hard. There's no way around not feeling anxious. So just, if you're struggling right now, I just want you to know that you certainly are not alone. It's a really difficult diagnosis. And if I can, what I wanted to kind of go through is, some of the things that I've experienced, some of the things I've read, and kind of give you some background as to maybe why our bodies respond in a certain way. So the main thing, and probably a lot of you have heard of this, there's something called the stress response. And what that is it's fight, flight, freeze. And it's really just the basic reaction that our bodies have when we are in a threatening situation or if it's perceived threat. And it's really our bodies are created to survive. So that's why we experience this in the moment. We're not. It's hard to access the cognitive part because your body's just in that survival mode. So to explain it would be, I'm here in my office. If I went out into the parking lot and there was a bear in the parking lot, my body's going to respond. So I am either going to fight the bear, I am going to flee from the bear, I'm going to run back in here, or I'm going to play dead, kind of the freeze response. And then what would happen is, eventually the bear would leave and my body would kind of calm down. And in the heightened state, though, what's happening is cortisol is being released. There's different parts of your body that are not activated because it is in that survival response. But with time and a change in scenery and our thoughts, the system kind of calms itself down. Now, with a cancer diagnosis, and really most chronic illnesses, and as most of you probably know, we get that initial diagnosis, and then there's additional things. There's, now you're being told you have to have chemo or you have to have a surgery. That is again the stress response. The diagnosis with the cancer, like your thoughts they go dark, right? They go to places like all the what ifs. So our body responds in that way. And what's happening is your heart rate increases, your respiratory rate, your tense muscles, all of those things. I know for me, I do scans every 3 months. Scan days I hate, and I love our group because we have the scan check-ins, and I think that is so helpful. But I know I will be anxious that entire day. I'll be anxious until I get that response in my chart. And even then I've gone like panic mode when you click to read your results. So I can feel it. I can feel it physically in my body, and it's overwhelming in those times. So, and I know that's, with the cancer, that's how our bodies react and in those different ways. So it's always kind of activated. What I want to help you with tonight is how do we calm down that system? It's not going to go away because it's built in. It's just part of our nature, but there are different techniques and skills that we can implement to just kind of help calm that system down. So I'm gonna go through some of these with you, and then like Sharon said at the end, if you guys have any questions, please jot those down as we go through it, and we can talk about that at the end of the program here. All right, so I've got a few here, and I've got some notes. The first one, the one that I think has been extremely helpful for me is deep abdominal breathing. So what happens when we are in that panic mode is we're thinking about the what ifs, right? Think of anxiety. It's worry about the past, it's worry about the future. And we tend to not be in the present moment, which honestly is all we have to control. We can only control what's going on in the here and now. So there's a deep breathing skill that I'll demonstrate for you real quick if I can here. What you do, there's different techniques, but I like the box breathing. It's easy to remember. It's easy to do. So you breathe in through your nose, and you want to fill your belly. We tend to breathe just in our chest, but you want to actually fill your belly. That's there's a nerve that runs from our gut to our brain. It's called the vagus nerve. And what happens when you take that deep breath in, it activates the vagus nerve. So it's going to just calm your whole system down. So you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4 seconds. You fill that belly. You hold it for 4 seconds. And then you slowly breathe out for 4 seconds. And you wait for 4 seconds. Now I do this, and when they are checking my blood pressure, any doctor's visits, I go in. A lot of times I'll start in the waiting area. I do it every day, but really focus when I'm in my doctor's appointments, just because I want to calm my body down, so they're getting an accurate read. And I'll show you if you got this is a fun little party trick. If you have an Apple Watch, if you hit your heart monitor on there, mine's gonna be a little bit higher because I am anxious. Well, let me give you a read, and then I'll do the breathing, demonstrate that. Ooh, that mine's really high. Okay. I got 129, which is not my normal heart rate, but let me just do the breathing, and then I'll just for a second or two, and then we'll check it again.
Thank you.
Okay, I am at 105 right now. So
It's like magic.
It is like magic. I show that. I see a lot of teenagers, and that's my party trick for them. And it's a great way to see how connected our mind and body are, and that we can really regain that control and just try to calm the system down. And the deep breathing, I would say, if you don't do it currently, I would say try to do it like 3 times a day. I'll do it before bed too, just to, help with sleep, all that good stuff. So that's a great strategy to use. The next one I want to go into is regular movement. So I'm not, how many times do we hear exercise, right? It's, everybody knows to exercise. So I prefer movement, just because I think exercise has a negative kind of vibe to it, but really just moving your body. And again, I know that there's probably people in different stages and phases and abilities. So what you can do, obviously, finding what you can do and setting up a goal to do that on a regular basis. Some of the research that I've gone through, the basic 10 minutes, if you can move 10 minutes a day, that is going to help to shift your mind and your mood. So just, that's the basic. If you can get that in, you're going to notice some difference. And what that does is it releases, anytime you're moving, it releases the feel-good hormones. So you're going to reduce the cortisol, you're going to reduce the stress hormones, and you're going to increase the feel-good hormones. And if you can get outside, even better. There's a lot of research just of the benefits of being outside and being in nature. The sounds and all of that. There's actually, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but there's some research out there too that finds the healing effects. They did a study, I think it was the University of Kentucky, but they did a study, and they monitored people that just had plants in their rooms versus patients that didn't have plants. And the patients that had plants had, they were quicker to recover, and their stress and all, like their heart rate and everything was at a lower than the people that didn't have the plants in the room. So just having some part of nature is very impactful.
I believe in Japan, they call it green bathing.
Yeah.
Being out in nature. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I love that idea, because you think of a bath as relaxing, right? And cleansing. So green bathing.
Yep. And I live in Michigan, so we had snow earlier this week. So I have invested in a great pair of long thermal underwear. So because I love being outside, and I've got, I put on the trackers, so you can, like the gripping trackers, so I can, so you do it to get creative if you live in the colder temperatures. But there's so much benefit, and it gets dark, it's dark here. But I find peace in that too. I'll take, I have a headlight, take my dog out, and that's very peaceful at night too. So sometimes you have to be creative. I know that there's younger people that maybe have kids. You can, turn on the music, have a dance party with your kids. Just any kind of movement is really going to be impactful. What that also does is, if you think of the stress response, when you move, it's communicating to your brain and your body that you're safe. So if you think of that bear scenario, if you move, your brain's going to start to calm down, because that perceived danger or actual danger is no more. So that's another way that body just kind of calms itself down too. Right. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of, like, I don't know, I think research and can be a little boring, but if the specifics with movement, it's going to reduce your cholesterol, blood pressure. It's going to help with sleep. If you exercise outside, your eyes collect melatonin through the sunlight. I believe if you exercise like before 10 a.m., you get melatonin through your eyes. So that is going to also help with your sleep. It improves concentration. I think that's the main ones there. The other strategy that I find to be helpful when I'm feeling anxious or kind of panicked is it's called a grounding exercise. And what that is, it's going through all of your senses. And again, so we talked about how anxiety is the worrying about, like, what about, the future? What if? And then your body responds to that. But what you're missing is you're missing the here and the now. So the grounding exercises really help you bring you back to the here and the now. So that's where you tap into your senses. So what do you see? I can see the branches moving in the wind. What what do you feel? I can feel my desk, it's cold, it's smooth. What do I smell? I can smell my tea sitting here, or if you've got lotion, essential oils, have something that, and you can maybe have like a little, pack these into your little care bag when you go for treatment. Taste, if I took some of my tea, I would taste that. And then what am I missing? Touch, feel, touch, smell. Oh, here. I can hear, we have a fan going. I can hear the fan. I can hear my clock ticking. So tapping into all of those senses just helps also to calm your body down, because now you're focused on the here and the now, and your brain shifts, so you're not in that worried mode. All right. The next one is it's a little tricky, but to be aware of your feelings. I think a lot of times if you read, like I dove into just any kind of book I could get my hands on about cancer, and there's some great ones out there. There's some kind of wonky ones. And you hear a lot about, people say like, oh, just, be positive, be positive. And it's hard, and for me, it's not so much about being positive. It's not like that Pollyanna positive. It's about being aware of what you're feeling. And that was a shift for me. I thought I always had to be like, go get it. I'm gonna fight this. I'm gonna, and it's not. It's about checking in with yourself and noticing how you feel. And that's if you can Google, I think most people know like the basic, fear, happy, sad, mad. There's a bazillion feelings and emotions out there. And it does help, if you kind of pull up a chart, Google feeling chart, and you'll get a whole list of them. There's lots of apps too that you can kind of track your mood, but that's very helpful for me. And the best thing I ever read, and I don't know who said it or wrote it, was that feelings are indicators, not dictators. So we can feel something and it shifts, and you can be curious about that. Like, oh man, okay, like what was that? Like what am I thinking about? What am I telling myself? What that exchange that I just had, how am I interpreting that? So if you can kind of name like what you're feeling, and you can be worried, and you can be sad, and you can be mad, their feelings and emotions are completely normal. There's no wrong emotion. So to check in with yourself, I think a way of, if you journal, that's another great way to kind of be aware of that. So to notice it. And then, sometimes I'll tell clients, just kind of sit with it. You don't have to do anything right then and there with that. If it's a harder feeling, and it kind of carries on, then yeah, you maybe need to make, some shifts. And, people enjoy listening to music, or you watch a funny movie, or you call up a positive friend. So, if it feels like it's kind of heavy, certainly you can do something about that. But I think it is important too to just kind of check in with yourself and verbalize, even if you're just saying it in your own head, what it is that you are feeling.
Name it to tame it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, it was briefly too, there is the whole, like, if maybe some of you have heard of this, there's a connection too with our thoughts impact our feelings, and then they impact our behaviors. So that's another reason to be aware of what you're feeling. And then I always say, okay, what are you telling yourself in that situation? Because like I said earlier, when you're given a cancer diagnosis, your thoughts can go, they can get pretty rough and pretty scary. And so I think to kind of stand back and be like, okay, what am I telling myself? And I just put down, if we go back to exercise, and if your thought is, well, what's the point? The feeling would be something like hopelessness. And then the outcome is going to be, well, I'm just going to sit home, and, I don't feel like going out. I don't feel like going to the park. I don't feel like going up the stairs. And then the hopelessness, and then that's going to go into not moving, sitting in your chair, feeling more depressed, feeling more anxious. So you can see kind of how that spirals. And if you just kind of shift it up just a little bit, but if it's, well, I don't really feel like going outside, it's cold and it's dark, but, I do have 10 minutes. I could just go on a little walk. The feeling is going to be more hopeful, more encouraged, And then the outcome, hopefully, would be that you do go out and take that walk, and you're going to just have that shift of mood. And maybe when you're out, you're like, well, I can go a couple more minutes. Like, I'm already out here. Why not? So, it just kind of shifts and changes the actions that you take throughout the day. All right. The next one I want to talk about is being assertive. I am not great at this, so I've had to work on that. But I think when you are thrown in, and Sharon, you can speak to this too, but when you're kind of thrown into the medical world, there's a lot that comes at you all at once. And I think sometimes we think we have to do what a doctor tells us or a nurse tells us or what our family tells us. And because we're scary and we're in a vulnerable place. But what I tell friends that have been diagnosed with cancer is, you gotta kind of do your own research. And that can be scary too. And if I actually had my husband do more of it, because, that was kind of overwhelming to me. And then, I was talking to Sharon previously too, like when I had a local doctor that I met with. He was not a sarcoma specialist, and it didn't feel right. And then, my husband's like, well, hey, there's a clinic in Ann Arbor. Why don't we go there for a second opinion? And we did, and man, like that felt right. And then now as I read more on the group, I'm like that I needed to go to a sarcoma specialist. So that was the right route to take. So to be assertive, it's really just communicating your needs to others. It's not, there's passive. Passive is, more like a doormat, like people tell you what to do and when to do it and all those things. Aggressive is just really when, it's kind of like in somebody's face and you're kind of rude and mean, but assertive is you're just establishing like some healthy boundaries. You're communicating your needs, and you can use that too with, friends and family. I know for me, I didn't feel like I needed to tell everybody my medical issues that were going on. There were some people that needed to know. There's people that you trust. And there's other people that I think maybe they just want, the inside scoop. So you can also be assertive in that way, deciding who you share your information with and who you trust. And there could be people that you're just like, yeah, I'd like to keep that private, but thanks for asking. Yeah. Okay. And the next part that does help with anxiety and depression and a lot of mental health is goes through nutrition. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on there because I know sometimes when we have nutrition questions on the group page, people have very strong opinions, which is fine. This really is looking at the mental health part of it. So there's been some research that what helps your body. There's certainly things that we take in that can make us a little bit more anxious. I mean, I love my coffee, right? But if I'm drinking 12 cups a day, I'm going to be a bit anxious. So the nutrition wise is it kind of goes back to the basic things like knowing what fuels your body, what makes you feel good, the brain, what feeds the brain. So there is some evidence-based information here on food can affect the brain health. Kind of the things that we've heard for years. Leafy greens, that's going to help to reduce inflammation. That inflammation takes place when there is depression and anxiety. So the microbiomes, so that the good bacteria in your gut, that's going to influence mood and cognition. With that, you really want to get like some fermented food. And then really just the rainbow of the fruit and veggie world, trying to really get as much fresh fruits and vegetables that you can. And then, things in the broccoli, cauliflower, and nuts and seeds are a great source as well. There's, I'm going to share some resources at the end, but there's a pretty interesting book that I went through that is all on nutrition for depression and anxiety. The next category I looked at was kind of combined a few things here, but it's looking at nature, faith, and meditation. So I know everybody's kind of coming from different places in their lives, and I know there's different beliefs, so I'm not, I don't want to be preaching here for you, but one of the things that some of the research I went through is that the nervous system, so that's what kind of gets activated when we are stressed and anxious, that automatically relaxes when you go out into nature. I can't tell you how many times I can feel it in my chest before I take a walk with my dog. I just, if I'm thinking about cancer, if I'm thinking about treatment, if it, like just how it has interrupted your life, or you're kind of getting down on yourself, and I can feel it when I walk out that door. And then when I come back, it's a lot of times it's gone. I love to walk. I love to see the birds. I love to watch the plants grow and flowers and all that good stuff. So absolutely, if you can get outside, tons of benefits to that. If you can't, just trying to move in your house. Meditation, it doesn't have to be anything wild and crazy. I find it to be helpful I think as we go through the day, we put things in the back burner. Because you got to just, if you got kids you're taking care of, you got a job you're doing, you've got tasks, you got responsibilities. So sometimes we just don't have time to check in with ourselves. But however, if we don't, our bodies are going to do that. And a lot of times one of the most common things I have in my office here is sleep. People just don't sleep well at all. So meditation, you can do it any time of the day. What I find helpful is I'll just sit down on my floor in my bedroom before bed. I'm not great at it, but I'll focus on my breathing. So I try to do like that deep abdominal breathing. I also, whatever thoughts or worries come up into my head, I almost envision it like putting it on a cloud and then just sending it on its way. So you don't have to solve it. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to fix it. You just notice it and then send it on its way. And then I try to go back to my breathing. I just do that for a couple minutes. There's people that, there's different ways. If you Google it, there's tons of different ways that you can do meditation. But that's kind of what I try to practice. And certainly if you pray, that's just another form of meditation. I've got a pretty strong faith, and that's carried me through a lot. It's kind of a way to turn my burden over, and where I don't have to fix it and solve it myself. So that's been very helpful in my life. And I think got two more things that I thought would be helpful. Gratitude. Gratitude is an automatic brain shifter. So obviously with the cancer diagnosis, you're going to experience anxiety, you're going to experience depression. Gratitude helps me shift my focus. So you can kind of get stuck in the muck, and everything kind of seems dismal. So if you practice gratitude, it's really looking at, okay, what has gone well? Even if you got to do it day by day, and it might be, I got out of bed today, or the sun is out, or I made myself breakfast. Like whatever that is, just being grateful for what you were able to do, or what's in your life, or what you see, and the more that you look for those things, the more you're going to find it. It's the same with the negative. If you kind of look at everything that's going bad, you're going to find it. But if you make that shift to, okay, what's just one thing I can identify today that has gone well, or that I'm enjoying, or that has been helpful, and then you're gonna find more of that as well. And then support. This is a hard one. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's a weird phenomenon. Maybe it's just happened with me. But I remember when I got diagnosed, it felt like everybody came out of the woodwork to offer up their support. I almost felt like a freak show. And then I was tease my husband. It's like, you got like a 6-month window there, and people kind of trickle away, because it's when you see somebody hurting or in pain, and with cancer, for a lot of us, you can see it, right? I lost all my hair. I lost 40 pounds. I was at times gray or green. I did the Red Devil, like that's terrible. And And so people could, I would hate to go to the grocery store because people could see it, and it's like they can see that, like, oh, that's not good. Something's not right. And that's really mentally very challenging. Um, and I had a good friend tell me, because I didn't like that. I didn't like going to church because people would see it and they almost give you like a pity look. I don't know what to say to you, so they kind of avoid you. But I had a good friend say, you know what, maybe this is the opportunity to let people in and let other people help you. So in my profession and in my life, I'm a helper. I like to do the helping, and it was harder to accept the help from others. But when I started to do that, it was very important. And I know that, there's obviously, if you look at the statistics, there's a lot of really lonely people in the world, and I hear you, and I know that's very challenging. And that's why I so appreciate Sharon's the support group, because hopefully you get the feedback and the support that you would need in putting something out there too. We are put in this world to connect. We need each other. We need other human connection. I think we all realized that during COVID, just how much we need other people in our lives. And so I would just encourage you, if you can, I don't know what's available in your area or your community, but if there's support groups that you can attend, if you can, get into a Bible study, if you can go to a book club, it doesn't have to be cancer related, but just finding opportunities to get out there and to connect if you feel like you don't have a whole lot within your family or your friend group. And I think that's it. I do, if I could real briefly, I've got a little bit of resources too. Now, certainly I know this little short segment is not going to fix all your mental health concerns. If you do feel like, and I know that, one thing we didn't talk about is, trauma is another very common experience. There's, a lot of people have experienced trauma, and cancer in itself is traumatic. So I always encourage if you feel like there's a lot you still have to unpack, and you need some more support. I'm always an advocate for counseling. Obviously, there's a great resource. It's called Psychology Today. You probably have heard of it, but you can go on it. It's nationwide. You can go on it and see who is available in your area, what their specialties are, what insurance they take. So it's a great way to find a therapist. I would always look for, like majority of therapists have training in anxiety and depression. That's because it is so common. If you find somebody that specializes with trauma or chronic medical conditions, snatch onto them. That's a great resource. And then word of mouth too. Like, if you have friends, you would be surprised. I think a lot of people maybe don't ask because they are embarrassed or don't want to get meddle in somebody else's business, but ask around if see if some friends have had therapists that they would recommend. I can tell you it's very common. I attended therapy as well. It was just a lot to unpack my diagnosis. So I went to counseling too, and I'm a counselor. I'm trained in it, but I still needed it. So yeah, definitely is an advocate for that. Books, I don't have a picture of one, but there's a book called Radical Remission. I've read that one shortly after I was diagnosed, and it was very hope-filled for me. It's all evidence-based research. And I know, I think our cancer is so rare. I don't think there were any people in that had our type of cancer, but the information it just provided a lot of hope to me. So that was a really helpful book. It's by Dr. Kelly Turner. The nutrition one is right here. So this is Eat to Beat Depression and Anxiety, and that's by Dr. Drew Ramsey. This one was very helpful to me as well. This is Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. Great one for anxiety. It is faith-based, so just to put that out there. And then this big old guy, I've had this for a couple of years. This is like my anxiety Bible. It's got everything in there on anxiety. It's a very holistic approach, but it's it's called the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook. Edmund Bourne, PhD. And there was a great podcast that just aired March 13th. So Mel Robbins whose podcast it is. It's March 13th is the date, and it's episode 271. But she talked to Dr. Julie Smith, who also had a cancer diagnosis. And they talked about, I believe it's both on, I think it's on anxiety. It could be anxiety and depression, but and emotions. But that's a great one too if you want to listen to a podcast.
I'm in the middle of that one myself.
Are you? Oh, so good.
I love Mel Robbins.
Yeah, I just got into her. So yeah, there's ton. Yeah, she is good. Yeah, it's a great resource.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all I have. I don't.
That was a plethora of tricks and tips for us. I mean, you gave us a whole toolbox, and now we have to use them. That's the hard part, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I hope people took notes.
One at a time, right? Like I always think, it's like goal setting. Everybody goes to the gym in January, for an hour every day, and it's too much. So, I would pick one thing that we talked about tonight and just, focus on that for the next couple of weeks. And when you feel like you really got that down, then add something else. So you just kind of those mini goals and build up from there.
I like that idea. Just one. That's not overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And you have to work at it all the time to make a change, to make a new habit.
Yep.
So
Yep. I just wake up, I kind of wake up every day and I'm like, okay, what can I do today to make my body the healthiest it can be, to, combat all the other stuff that's going on inside. So it's like, okay, I can either shift towards being healthy or I can shift away, but I'm gonna, do whatever I can to go the healthy route.
questions. So people can either just unmute themselves and ask questions, or you could put it in the chat. And let me see where the chat is. Okay, so I don't see anything in the chat yet. Anybody have questions, or anybody want to say what one thing they would like to try out? Oh, so Kate wants to know, can you please share the book titles and authors again?
Yep. So, okay. So I've got Radical Remission by Dr. Kelly Turner. Eat to Beat Depression and Anxiety. That's Dr. Drew Ramsey, Ramsey. Get Out of Your Head by Jenny Allen. That's the one that's faith-based and addresses anxiety. And there's the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook by Edmund Bourne, Bourne. I think that was it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anybody want to share something they heard that they would like to try? Now everybody's being shy. No? Okay. Any questions? And again, you can use the chat if that helps you. So one thing I started doing a couple years ago was the gratitude practice. When I was feeling really bad, oh, someone just agreed. I appreciate the reminder to focus on gratitude. It changes your mood instantly.
Yeah.
Because instead of saying, why me, or things always bad happen to me, or something like that, you change to what happened good today.
Yeah.
Right. And that brings the good feelings and the good juices going. And that really is very helpful. But we're wired to look for the negative as a survival technique. So it's really hard to look for the positive, but you have to practice it. It doesn't come naturally.
Nope.
Okay, let's see. Marge said, everything you say is so helpful. I do find nature walks help me relax on stressful days.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I love that. I used to be a jogger, before cancer, and I just put my, music in my ears, and then through treatment, you just get so run down that I just end up walking. And but that was really what just slowed down for me and made me actually enjoy. I find it more peaceful and relaxing to just walk. and you notice more, and you can hear the birds, and you can, and hear that we have like a little river that's by our house, and just
Oh,
that is just, yeah, just calms your soul. Yeah.
that reminds me of the little fountains people used to have in their house that make the little trickle sound in the
Yeah.
bottles, you know? Those
Yeah.
those are well, used.
Oh, you know
So
what?
I like your breathing techniques, the box.
I
And
was
one
just,
thing we don't think of is take it in for 4, count of 4, but to hold it for a count of 4 really slows your heart down,
Mhm.
and then breathe out 4 and wait 4. I love that.
Yep, and you can use it anywhere, right? Like I sit there when they're doing my blood pressure, and nobody can tell that you're doing it, but it just kind of calms down your system. So an added bonus too, if anybody else is out there with the nodules in their lungs, I actually about a year ago, I had a couple of my nodules grew together and blocked my airway, and it collapsed my lung. And I was told by three different doctors, that would stay deflated. It would not return. Um, I do my breathing, and I believe in God, and then my next scan showed that my lung had reinflated. So
Nice.
I do
Nice.
think that breathing, it does. I mean, there is evidence that that does help to strengthen your lungs too. So not only does it help with the anxiety, but if you've got, if you got the cancer in your lungs, definitely do that breathing, because it'll help to strengthen that as well.
Okay, Carrie says also writing down your gratitudes instead of speaking them
Mm,
allows you to go back and reflect. So
yep.
that's some people have a gratitude journal
Mhm.
where sometime during the day, either at bedtime or throughout the day, they write down things that went well.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Maureen said we live in Washington State and some of our state parks offer forest bathing. Yes,
Oh,
green bathing. You might want to check with your state park system. Maureen, do they really call it forest bathing and what do they recommend? Well, you may not want to unmute. Okay, that's okay. I'm just curious.
No, I'm here. I just had to find the right button. Um, w- we live near Tolme State Park, and one of the rangers there once a year would have a class. I don't know that it hasn't come out yet, but it's an individual class, and she takes you through the forest, and she kind of instructs you on breathing and taking in sounds and smells and whatnot. So.
Oh, I need some of that.
that's awesome.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, Kate says, the time between getting the scan and the scan results is so hard.
Uh,
Last scan, I cleared my week to allow for the extra rest with that anxiety. It really helps so much. Yeah, giving yourself some space.
mm,
I used
yep.
to get my scans and I would take a nap afterwards. I was just exhausted and it must have been all that adrenaline
Mhm.
and anxiety, but I was physically tired after a scan.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, to know how you respond, I think is really helpful too. I know for myself, then the night before I have a scan, I'm kind of in a, funky mood. I'm just, I'm probably not pleasant to be around. So I just, I'll kind of read, kind of go to bed early, do that. And then, yeah, the day of the scan is stressful. It's anxiety producing. And I know for me, luckily, I think I get mine back. It's been anywhere from like 24 hours to 3 days. So they lean more towards just the, like maybe a day. And I know just, yeah, when you get that alert, I mean, I'll check like all constantly too, but I'll get that alert and I read it. And then if there's anything out of the normal, I kind of freak out. I then have my husband read it, and he's kind of reassuring. And then if there is anything out of the normal, I can message my doctor and things like that. But then like the next day, it's just kind of like I regroup. I'm like, okay, what do we need to focus on? What do we need to get going on? It's like, so it's just kind of like that regroup, like not, even if there's something in there that you didn't anticipate, or, it seems pretty desperate. I just think like, okay, like just, you got to regroup, and, you know, you're going to have communication with your oncologist. There's going to be a plan. There's, just to keep, just kind of keep that in mind. And like the whole control thing, right? We can only control what's the here and the now. So just trying to focus on that.
Yeah. I need a plan that helps me calm down. If I
Mhm.
have a plan, I can focus on that, like what I can do versus that feeling of not being in control.
Mhm.
So, yeah. As soon as I have a plan, I'm happy. And I help you guys make plans too. I plan for you.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It helps my anxiety when I read about all your situations. Just kidding. So attitude of gratitude. Oh yes, that's what you want to remember.
Mm.
So any more tips that people want to try out or remember or like? I want to make sure I give space here for people to get what they need. No? Okay. Okay, we got someone who just joined us. Gee, they may be on a different time frame. Anyhow, I
Just
think
wanted to say
Sarah,
thanks for that. It's Kylie, I'm from Australia. And
Yes.
I just sort of wanted to say thanks. And also the time difference it actually meant that I could join in for a change, which is really handy. But yeah, that was really handy. And I've been around for 10 years or so. And so it's been really good to have the group and the support. And yeah, just this is probably one of the first sort of seminar things that I could join and that I felt would be something that I'd like to hear from. So there's been a few points that have been really handy. So thanks for that.
Well,
Oh,
thank you,
yeah.
Kylie.
Yeah, glad you could join us.
Yeah.
Kylie, do you know about the Australian Down Under LMS group?
I do. They are less help. They're very. I don't know. I joined them not long ago, but it's very. The tone of the group is a lot different. It's
Uh-huh.
very kind of depressing, I think. I actually sort of
Yes.
read through the entire thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's in it. And I know there's a lot of people um in in this group that are you know struggling with quite horrible situations, but there's a lot of people as well who are sort of jump on and encouraging. And it's like if someone posts something, there's someone within minutes or an hour will say, look, it's all good, we're here, it's you can get through it. Whereas in the Down Under group, it's like, oh, this is all doom and gloom, and have you tried this rather radical regime, and it's sort of like, oh gosh, this is the end, I'm sort of stopping now. So it's a totally different vibe,
Oh
and
dear.
I found it was less helpful, so I decided not to look at it quite so much.
Yeah, we all need a little encouragement, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Marge said, thank you for speaking to us on coping. Your coping mechanisms are very helpful, sir.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? It's a lot to think about. So, okay, I'm going to end it. We're almost at the hour. And I want to thank Sarah. Everybody give her a virtual clap. Yay.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate you taking your time, especially someone who understands us. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, and the encouragement I've received from the whole group when I've posted things. I really appreciate it.
Okay, great. Everybody have a great evening. We'll
Yeah.
see you. I'll record this and put it on the web. All right. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.